Sometimes you just need a nav bar. Now, if you don't know what a nav bar is just a navigation bar that usually sits at the top of your web page or website with links to other parts of your site. And they're on essentially every single website on the internet. And if you don't have one, then I'm not really sure what you're doing. But with that being said, you can create sexy little navigation bars with Bootstrap because it has a built-in nav bar component that you can use in little ways, or you can use in the full capacity. There's a lot of features and functionality you can jam pack in there. Or you could just do something really simple if you just want to, put a nav bar that sits fixed at the top of your site, and you can do whatever else within that part of the component. So that's the beauty of Bootstrap. You can use components and pick and choose what you want to keep and what you want to throw away. So we're going to build a navigation bar, and it's going to be kind of a jumbo one. We're going to go all out and build something really big so that you know what you can throw in there, and then you can trim down where necessary. So go ahead and create a file called the navbar.html and put the basic Bootstrap and HTML structure here. You need your obviously doc type and everything like that, but you need to make sure to include your Bootstrap CSS and your custom CSS. Make sure you have that HTML5 shim and respond.js. All of these are included in the previous files and in the final course files if you need to just copy and paste to work from where we are right now. And then I just have a container here with page header. You don't need to have that. This is just so when I'm showing you the demo, you could see on your screen what lecture we're working on. We're going to be building a nav bar. So I'm assuming you're up to speed here because you have the magic and beauty of the pause button. So here we go. We're going to jump in and start off right away building a nav. So we're going to use the HTML5 tag nav. And Bootstrap suggests if you don't use the HTML5 tag nav and you're using something generic like a div, they recommend that you add the role attribute and then put navbar or nav. Basically, that just tells the computer or the Google or just kind of whatever machine is reading your document, what that specific element is. It's just more semantic. But you can feel free to use the navigation tag, which is just nav. So from here, we need to add some built-in Bootstrap classes. Now, bear with me here. There's a lot of markup, and try not to make any typos because that's where it's going to throw you for some loops. So class, we need to start off with navbar. That initializes the entire thing. We need to have navbar. And then we could start using additional classes like navbar default. This gives us the default styles for the navbar. In here, you need to make sure you have a div, and it's going to have the class of either container or container-fluid. Whoops. Basically, that groups everything together and centers it in the screen, or it makes it full width, but you need to have it within a container. And in your container, we're going to add another div. And that div is going to have the class of navbar-header. And the reason why is because in here, we need to group the toggle button and the brand. So your logo or your website name, icon, whatever, these need to be grouped together in the navbar header, because when you resize your browser to a mobile size, it's going to display the little toggle button, that's the hamburger icon, many designers call it, to show on your mobile device that you can click that to expand your navigation menu. So this is all built in. This is all built in for responsive development because that's what Bootstrap's for. So add a button tag, give it the type of button, and then it needs to have the class of navbar-toggle, and then collapsed. That just says, there we go. This is going to be the toggle icon, and initially the menu is collapsed. So when you resize to your mobile size screen, or you're on your iPhone or Android device, the menu isn't open by default. We want it collapsed by default, and that's what that's going to do. And then we need to add the data toggle. Now remember, we can add custom data attributes. Well, Bootstrap created some custom attributes called data toggle, and that lets you choose collapse. That just tells, basically it tells the browser, it tells the JavaScript that is built into the Bootstrap plugins, this is going to be a collapse button. And then we need to have a data dash target. So it's choosing what is it targeting? What am I collapsing here, my friends? The ID, so the hash symbol or hashtag for those of you who like to call it that, navbar-collapse. Okay, now that we've got that built in, I know you might be thinking, how the heck am I supposed to remember this? Don't worry, you don't need to remember it. Once you do it once, basically you just copy and paste and tweak as necessary. I haven't memorized any of this stuff, so don't worry about that. It doesn't make you a bad developer or anything if you can't remember all of this markup. That's why there's documentation. Getbootstrap.com, that's your Bootstrap Bible. Okay, so span in the button, we need to have a class of SR-only. Remember the screen reader only class? That hides the text from everything but screen readers. And this just tells screen readers that this button is going to toggle the navigation. Now we're going to add 3 more span tags here that are going to have the class of icon-bar that accesses some Bootstrap CSS to make the sandwich icon. So those 3 bars are just going to make 3 vertical bars when you're in mobile devices. And you'll see that momentarily. Outside of the button, we need to have an A tag with the class of navbar-brand, and then href, whatever you want it to be, index.html, home.html, whatever page you want to link to. And I'm just going to say brand, and that's going to give you the brand. So why don't we just see if anything looks decent so far? So here we go. We have a built-in navigation bar. Fits the full width there. If I were to resize, it goes with the width. And it has the brand, which is the link, and it's centered and it's looking good so far. Great. Okay, now outside of your navbar header, we have another div. So add the class of collapse. That's going to give some styles that are built into Bootstrap to collapse these when you're on mobile devices. Navbar-collapse, more styles. Not really sure why there's many different styles or classes here, but that's what Bootstrap does. And then the ID of navbar-collapse. Kind of redundant, but it is what it is. Navbar-collapse, the ID is being selected right here with the data target, as you can see. So this button is going to target this element. That's how that's going to work. Now in here, we need an unordered list with our list items or our navigation items. This is going to have the class of nav and then navbar- wait for it, nav, navbar, nav. So we're going to have many nav bars, nav bars, nav and go nav bars. And then list items, class. The first one we're going to give the class of active just so you can see those styles. And then it's going to have a link because it needs to be a link. So the href, I'm just going to put a #, hashtag, hash mark, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm just going to say link or home. That's a bit more relevant. Now I'm going to add another link. And then an A tag, just another little hash sign there. And this one is, again, just going to say link. Okay, now, so far, it should look like this. Link, you see? And it has the active styles. Looks good already. Cool. Now we want to add a drop-down. You can add drop-down menus in your Bootstrap Navbar. By default, very, very easy to do. You just need to add some additional markup in your unordered list here. So I'm going to add a list item, and we need some space here because we're going to add some more list items within the list item. Class of dropdown, Bootstrap class, keep that in mind. So the initial parent link is going to have the class of dropdown-toggle and data-toggle dropdown. Again, you don't have to memorize these. Those are all just kind of built in. And then Bootstrap recommends that you add the role attribute of button because this is more so behaving as a button, not a link. Even though it's an A tag, adding role button is basically giving more semantic value to this tag saying, hey, I'm not a link, I'm actually a button. Cool, cool. Drop down is the text, space, span, and then we're going to add class of caret, and that's just going to add the little caret or arrow pointing down, and that is the A tag. Great. Now, and under that A tag as a sibling, unordered list. Within the list item, you can do that. Class dropdown dash menu. Now, in here, we're going to add the dropdown menu list items. So very, very simple. Same deal. You just got your list items, A tags within them. Let's say submenu item. I'm going to copy this, paste a couple more. submenu item 2, submenu item 3. And you can also add a separator. So an li with the role of separator. It adds a horizontal line, kind of like well, an HR essentially, or a divider line, which is so class divider. An empty tag, not like best practice, but that's okay because you shouldn't have empty tags, but sometimes you just have to, and that's okay sometimes. So I got the separator, and then I'm going to have one more list item right on under there. There we go. And now we're going to finish up that drop-down menu right there, and then we're closing the initial li tag right there, and then the unordered list for the navbar nav. So let's see what that looks like. So we got home, link, and then a drop down. So when we click this, drops down, built right in. Look at this. So we got 3 items, horizontal rule or the divider, submenu item 4. Pretty cool. Hey, already without doing any CSS. Now keep in mind, this would be a heck of a lot of CSS for you to just code this, which is only what, taking us 5 minutes so far? Awesome. Okay, let's go back to it. Let's add more because we're not done. Let's add like a search input to this as well. So outside of this unordered list, still within our, actually, whoops, not here. Don't do it there. Outside of the unordered list right here, so we're still within the collapse, navbar collapse area, we're going to add a form tag, and it's going to have the class of navbar-form and navbar-left, which is going to position it left in the navbar. It's all Bootstrap stuff. And role equals search. This is just more semantic value. It's just saying this is going to be a search form. You don't have to add it, but you can. Semantic value. This div inside here is going to have the class of form group. Remember we were playing around with forms? Well, we need to add a form group. Forgive me for my terrible typing here. Form-group. Geez. Okay. And then input. And here we're going to have the type of text, class of form-control. Remember, that's what you have to add to every one of your inputs to get the Bootstrap styles. And let's add a placeholder saying search site, ... Okay, and then that is the form group. Outside of that, we're going to add a button. And that button is going to have the type of submit because it is a submit button, class of BTN, and BTN, let's go info. Why not? No, let's do primary. You can do whatever one you want, really. And then search site. Or just go. How about that? Even cooler. Now the form is done. And then let's check to see what that looks like. Very, very simple. There's our form right there. You see, search site, go. You can search the site. Bam. Cool. And now outside of that form, let's add yet another navbar nav. You can add multiple navbar navs. So let's go UL. And we're going to go class nav, navbar-nav, and navbar-right. Now this is going to have the navigation bar be floated to the right within the parent. And then in here, we're just going to have some list items with the A tags. The same deal here. I'm going to say, let's just say side link. There we go. Good enough. I'm going to add another dropdown, kind of like a user account dropdown over to the right. So we have to say list item. This is going to have the class of dropdown, and then href, money, pound. Actually, that's not a money sign. What am I talking about? Pound sign, hashtag, hash mark. That confuses me every time now. Class dropdown dash toggle. And data toggle, we have to toggle something, the drop down. There it is. And again, role button, like so. Telling it, hey, I'm not a link, I'm a button. And then span class, whoopsies, class caret. And close that span tag. And then before that, I'm just going to say account info. Why not? And save so far, and now we need to open up an unordered list for the drop-down menu, and that's going to have the class of drop-down-menu. And here we're going to have some list items, so li and the a tags, and we're going to say, okay, update security, edit, profile, and let's just say log out. There we go. Something like that makes sense. And then save, and we should be done our navigation bar. Let's see what this looks like. Side link, account. Oh, that says into, not info. Let's change that to account info. There we go. Update security, edit profile, log out. Kind of looks like a normal navigation bar that you'd see on a site. Now, it currently just sits there with some padding at the top here. Maybe you want it fixed to the top of your website. Well, all you really need to do is at the top of your parent, the nav tag, you simply need to add a class. So right here we have the class, the nav, class of navbar default. Just add the class navbar-fixed-top. And that will fix it to the top of your site, like so. So if you had a lot of content, so let me just add a bunch of dummy content down here. You don't have to do, but if you want to do it just to test, then you certainly can. I'm just going to add a lot of lorem ipsum. Hopefully that'll give me enough to scroll. It certainly doesn't. Let me just copy and paste this a few more times, just for an example. That's a lot of HTML paragraph tags. There we go. Scrolling. Stays to the top there. Let me remove that silly, there we go. So now when I scroll, it's fixed to the top. And these drop downs will work nicely. There we go. And now let me show you the little hamburger icon. Responsive menu. Here it is. Boom. There's the hamburger icon. Click it. There is your fully functional drop down menu. There we go. Built right into Bootstrap. Now, there are a couple more things I want to show you before I head off to eat a sandwich and make a latte. Is change the color of this. Obviously, you can use CSS, but there's a built-in additional version that you can use, and it is the inverted navbar. Just add the class navbar-inverse. Save it, and check it out. There it is, the inverted navbar. And it's just the darker color if you want to use that. But you can also style it yourself using overriding the Bootstrap classes. And so you may want to inspect the element to make sure you're using the right classes so that you can style it correctly. But that's very simple. And so that is the Bootstrap Navbar hidden within the components of the getbootstrap.com website right here. Components and then Navbar. This gives you everything you need to know about the Navbar. There's more examples here if you want to play around with it. Talks about the brand image, some more forms, buttons, text, non-nav links, component alignment, and so on and so forth. We've covered quite a bit of it, but this is what you could check out for future reference and also for when you're creating nav bars and you don't remember all the classes in the markup. All right, see you in the next lecture.